Hello, friends. Welcome to this month's Culture of Excellence Brief Retirement Style. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me. I hope that the words that I have will do a little inspiring for you. People who don't live in Florida worry about coming to Florida because we have hurricanes. I've heard that all the time. People are worried that if they come to Florida, they're going to get hit by a hurricane. Whenever I hear that, I remind them that, first of all, hurricanes have a season. They really only come between June and the 1st of November, and realistically, September, October is really when you see them most. Secondly, hurricanes are very well forecast, and they're very easy to avoid. We get 5, 6, 7 days notice on the Weather Channel of when that hurricane might come to us, and all we have to do is get in a car and head north and go inland. Now, we may get into some crowds on I-75 or I-95. I remember when Irma came down here to Florida, to Southwest Florida. The nearest place you could find a hotel on I-75 was someplace around Chattanooga, Tennessee. But we could get to safety, and we had plenty of time to do it. Whenever I hear people talking about hurricanes, I think, you're from the Midwest. And you're probably people who have to deal more with tornadoes. And I gotta tell you, I'd much rather deal with a hurricane than a tornado. Every year in the United States, there are about 1,000 tornadoes compared to 9 hurricanes. Those tornadoes cause an average of 80 deaths and over 1,500 injuries. Now, we've all seen the pictures of tornadoes, and you've probably wondered, what exactly is a tornado? Maybe you didn't wonder, but I'm going to tell you anyway. A tornado is a violent, rotating column of air extending down from a thunderstorm to the ground. Usually it seems someplace in the vicinity of a trailer park. People who hear a tornado coming at them say it's a sound that's very similar to a freight train approaching them. Tornadoes are most common in the spring, but can come any time of the year, usually in late afternoon after the heating of the day has taken over and the air is warmed up. Now, a tornado forms when warm, moist air gets overtaken by cold, dry air. The dense cold air tries to push over the top of the warm air, but the warm air rises. You've heard that before. Warm air rises, tries to go through the cold air, and causes an updraft. Sometimes that updraft begins to rotate. If the winds that it encounters in its process of rising vary sharply in speed or in direction, that's when you get the rotation. At this point, the storm is actually not a tornado. It is called a mesocycle. Water droplets from the mesocycle's warm, moist air, remember it's warm and moist, so there's lots of water in it, those water droplets form a funnel cloud. And eventually, some of those funnel clouds reach down to the ground. And when they reach to the ground, that's when they become a tornado. Now, most tornadoes come and go without any damage, just like most tropical systems do. They wander around the Atlantic or they wander around the Gulf of Mexico, and we hardly ever see them. And the only reason we know they exist is because we have satellites. So a lot of tornadoes are like that. They don't do anything at all. But some can cause significant damage and become quite memorable. On March 18th of 1925, the Tri-State tornado came down in Ellington, Missouri. It traveled through Illinois and Indiana, there's your 3 states, spending 3.5 hours on the ground. It killed 695 people, the deadliest tornado in U.S. history. It injured over 2,000. That's a pretty bad tornado. It was 40 years later when the Palm Sunday tornado struck, April 11th. 1965. This was actually not a single tornado, but it was a series of 47 tornadoes that came to Earth in the United States that day. They killed 271 people in 6 Midwestern states. It was after this outbreak in 1965 that the National Weather Service introduced their system of tornado watches and warnings that we are so familiar with. It was an effort to reduce future deaths and future injuries, to try to predict the unpredictable, which is where these tornadoes might form and might go. Another important tornado in our U.S. history, and most tornadoes fall in the United States for some reason, the Bridge Creek tornado of May 3rd, 1999. It came down near Oklahoma City. It was the first tornado that caused $1 billion in damages. It also ran over a weather station, which allowed it to record the highest wind gust ever recorded at 318 miles an hour. Just last December, an unnamed tornado, I don't know why this one didn't get a name, but an unnamed tornado covered over 250 miles on the ground. You might remember that. It came down in Arkansas, crossed Missouri, Tennessee, and into Kentucky, leaving a trail of destruction and death along its route. There's been a lot of terrible tornadoes, but there's one tornado that has been witnessed by more people than any other tornado in the history of time. It's a tornado that hit Kansas. It picked up a small house containing a young girl and her little dog and deposited them in a place called Oz. Now, most people know this story from the 1939 movie with Judy Garland. You have probably seen it. I know I have. It's been seen by more people than any other movie in the history of cinema. In 1939, it won the Oscar for Best Score and for Best Song, for Over the Rainbow, of course. It got nominated for Best Picture, but it lost to something called Gone with the Wind. Who knows? You might not know that the story is actually much older than that 1939 movie. It was created in 1900 by author Frank Baum, who wrote a book called The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. It was a very popular book. It sold over 1 million copies in its early years. It was the first book in what became eventually a 14-book series about the adventures of Dorothy and Toto. The first book was made into a musical for the stage in 1902, and then finally, some 37 years later, adapted for the movies. In the process, the story was toned down quite a bit to make it something that children could go to see. The book was very dark. There was an awful lot of killing necessary on the road from Munchkinland to Oz that was carried out by Dorothy and her cohort on the way to the Emerald City. And because I am full of trivial facts, you should know how Frank Baum came up with the name for the Wonderful Wizard of Oz. He was sitting there in his library, and he said, I have to name this place where the wizard will do all his wizardry. And it has to have a name that just evokes the thought of wizardry. And he couldn't come up with anything. So he starts looking around his office, sitting there in a typical office, and what do you see? Well, what Frank saw that day was a 2-drawer filing cabinet. This is a true story. Saw a 2-drawer filing cabinet. The first drawer was labeled A through N. The second drawer was labeled O through Z. And now you know how they came up with Oz. The point of the story in The Wizard of Oz we know too. Dorothy wanted to get home. Along the way, she met with the Scarecrow who wanted a brain, the Tin Man who wanted a heart, and the Lion who wanted courage. When they reached the Emerald City, the wizard, who turned out was not such a wizard, but really just a guy behind a curtain, the wizard gave each of them a token of what they needed or what they wanted. But he reminded them that they always had the qualities that they sought. And Dorothy, well, she could get home just by clicking her heels. Each of us has our own goals. And many think that we have obstacles that prevent us from reaching those goals. Maybe we think we need a college degree in order to get that next promotion, that next job that we really want. We think that we need to know somebody in order to get the next opportunity. And we know that we just don't know anybody. We think we can't do whatever it is we want to do. Well, maybe because we have kids at home, or we have too much debt, or we don't have enough time, or whatever excuse we choose. We have goals, but we say, I can't really achieve those, so I'm not going to try. We pass on our goals, creating excuses along the way as to why we can't reach them. But today I want that to end. Today, I want this to be the start of a new journey. It's not a journey from Munchkin Land to Oz. It's a journey from where I am today to where I want to be. So first things first, a very simple question. Put all thoughts aside for a moment, put down your phones, and ask yourself this question. Where do I want my life to go? Where do I want my life to go? Everybody watching in the last 10 seconds had a thought. Something popped into your mind as to where you wanted your life to go. It might have had something to do with your career. It might have had something to do with your relationships. It might have had something to do with money. It might have had to do with some personal issue that you'd like to change. Everybody had a thought. Because everybody in this world wants their life to continue to go forward, to continue to go in some direction, some place that they seek. That thought that you just had in those brief 10 seconds, less than a minute ago, might have been the most honest evaluation of your life for the last little while. Maybe you thought about a weakness or some unmet goal or a dream just waiting to get some traction. Whatever it is, it's okay. Whether it's big or it's small, it's okay. It's safe too. Because right now, you're the only one who knows what that thought was. You're the only one that knows what came into your mind when I said, where do I want my life to go? It's safe. But I gotta tell you, it's also a challenge. Because it's probably something that's been twisting around in your mind like a tornado for years. It's just been waiting to touch down. It's just been waiting for the opportunity to descend from that thunderstorm and come into this world and in one way wreak havoc on the world in which it comes into. But unlike a tornado that leaves destruction behind, this idea, this thing can come into your mind, can come into your life and cause a tremendous increase in everything that is good. It's the thing that can come into your life and make all the difference, dramatically increase your satisfaction, dramatically increase your happiness, dramatically increase your desire to do good for others as well. So how do we get there? How do we get from a dream, something that we have in our mind where it's safe, nobody will laugh at us, nobody will make fun of us, nobody will tell us that we can't do it? How do we move from that dream to a goal or a hope? How do we move all of those things to a new reality? Well, just like Dorothy and her friends discovered, what you really need is already within you, and it's just waiting to get out. You don't need a wizard. You don't need a yellow brick road. You don't even need ruby slippers or a retired chaplain. You just need to acknowledge that you already have what you need. You have a brain. You have a heart. You have courage. You have a brain. It's uniquely yours. Mine? Well, mine seems to have lots of room for trivia that I like to share with you. It has absolutely no room for basic home improvement skills, as my sons will tell you. What does your brain have? You don't need a college degree. You don't need a bunch of initials after your name to have a brain. You simply need to believe that within you there's a whole lot of knowledge that's already there that can help you to achieve your goals, that can help you to get where you want to be. maybe you have to add a little bit to that knowledge in a way that your brain best receives information. I'm not going to tell you there's a right way or a wrong way to learn, because I know that's not true. Some people learn great from books. Some people learn great from YouTube videos. Some people learn great from sitting with a mentor. Some people learn great sitting in a big classroom. There's tons of different ways to learn, to expand our knowledge, to improve our brain, and help us to get to where we want to be. You have to find your way. It can't be my way. It can't. It has to be your way. It has to be the way that makes your awesome brain work. That makes you use what you already have in a way that expands your universe and helps you to get to where you really want to be. You have a brain. You also have a heart. It's unique to you. The internet has made it possible for us to see and hear countless stories of people reaching out to others to share their hearts with others in all kinds of ways. Family, friends, coworkers, complete strangers. I'm not going to try to tell you stories today. I'm simply going to tell you that they're there. And there's lots of inspiration, lots of people sharing their hearts with others. And we can do that too. Compassion is a characteristic with which I think all of us are born. Hate is the one we have to learn. But compassion is the one that we are born with. The compassion that we show others, the heart you can show others. It might be something that's really big and flashy, but it might also be very small and quiet. It might be giving every kid in the high school a free college education and getting your name on national TV for it. But it might also be holding the door open at the restaurant for the lady with the walker and giving her a big smile as she walks in. Using our heart to show compassion costs us nothing, and it pays tremendous dividends. Like any muscle, our heart grows stronger when we use it. And I got to tell you, from my personal experience, when I use it and I come home at the end of the day and I reflect on the day that I've just had, and I think I can look at places and say, I showed compassion to somebody, it makes my life a little bit better. And it gets me closer to where I want to be. And so that's the muscle I want you to use today. I want you to use your heart to show compassion. Let that muscle grow stronger. And do it today. You have a heart, you have a brain, and you have courage. And it's courage that is unique to you. It really is. For some people, it takes courage just to get out of bed in the morning. People who suffer from depression, people who suffer from fear and anxiety, it literally takes courage for them to get out of bed in the morning. It takes courage for them to open the front door and take a step out into the world that scares the bejesus out of them. It takes courage for some people just to do that. For others, courage means taking tremendous risks and doing things that change the world. Most of us are somewhere in between those two extremes. For most of us, our courage that is uniquely ours means using our heart and using our brain together in order to get to where we're trying to be, in order to accomplish that goal, in order to fulfill that thought that we had a few minutes ago. What we want our lives to look like. Where do we want to be? You've got a brain, you've got a heart, and you have courage already within you. So this month, let's start the journey. This month, let's take the first steps forward to get from wherever we are to wherever we want to be. Let's use the things that we have, the God-given talents and gifts, the wisdom that we have in our brain, the compassion we have in our heart, the courage to take chances and do good for other people. Those are all things that we can do. There's no yellow brick road on our journey. There's no little munchkins singing along the way. There's no wizard waiting at the end of our journey who's going to suddenly give us things that we felt we needed all along. No, our journey is going to be hard work. And it's going to be something that challenges you emotionally if you're doing it right. If life is easy, if we don't have any struggles, if we just do our 9 to 5 and never reach out and never try anything new, we're missing the boat. We're missing the opportunities. We're missing the chances to make a difference in this world. We need a journey that challenges us. And when we have that, we're making the world a better place. So this month, start that journey. Start with an honest assessment of yourself. Where do I really want to be? In 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years, whatever the timeline is for you in your life. Where do I want to be? And then use your gifts, your brain, your heart, and your courage to start the journey. Because unless we start the journey, we're never going to get to where we want to be. As we make this journey, I leave you with 3 last simple reminders. Number 1, and this is not an original line, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. Do not think that you're going to accomplish everything you want to accomplish this week or this month or this year. That's not required. But starting the journey is. Whatever it is that you would like to accomplish will only be accomplished if you begin the journey, if you take the first step, if you take a little risk, use a little bit of that courage, use a little bit of that heart, use a lot of that brain, and take the first step. Secondly, a journey, any journey, requires some kind of a map. Now, I may be old, but even I'm not so old that I use paper anymore. I don't use paper maps. I use electronic maps. I use a phone. I use an iPad, something like that to give me a map. But you know what? It gives me something to point to my destination so I know where I'm going. The surest way to miss our destination is to not have planned where it is, to not have an idea where we're trying to go. Take the time to plan. Take the time to sit back and say, this is my goal. Do I want a new job? Do I want a new career? Do I want to lose weight? Do I want to run a 4-minute mile? What is it that I'm trying to do? I have to have a goal. I have to have a plan. I have to have a destination. Because if I don't have that destination, I'm never going to get there. And that's incredibly important. And finally, a journey is always better when we share it with somebody else. When someone else is on that journey with us. Dorothy started out with her little dog, Toto. She was joined by her friends, the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Lion. Who do you have on your journey with you? Everybody on a journey to a better life needs someone to go with them. You can call that person whatever you want. Sometimes it's called an accountability partner. Sometimes it's called a mentor. Sometimes it's called a friend. Sometimes it's called a spouse. Sometimes it's called a parent or a child. But you need to have somebody on that journey with you. Somebody who knows what your goal is, who knows what your destination is, and is willing to say to you, hey, you just made a bad turn back there and you need to fix it. We all need that person on our journey. If it's our best friend, if it's a coworker, if it's a family member, it's a pastor, it's a mentor, I don't care. But I know we need somebody to share that journey. Somebody who knows where we're trying to go and wants to help us get there. So I challenge you as you begin this journey to where you want to be as a person. I challenge you to find that person and share with that person what your dream is. Share with that person what your goal is, what your aspiration is. And ask that person to bless you with their assistance and their support and their prayers and whatever else that you need in order to get to where you want to go. If I can help you in any way on your journey, well, just let me know. I'd be honored to do that. Some of you who are watching this I've known for decades. Some I barely know at all. Some maybe I've never met, if somebody else hit the share button and put it on to their friends. But I do know that I'm on a journey. And I do know that I love to help other people on their journeys as well. So this month we talked about tornadoes. We talked about what happens when a tornado comes down to this land, spreads havoc across wide swaths of land sometimes, and leaves behind it destruction. But we also talked about how we can destroy a little bit about what we have, that safety that we have, to find ourselves and get ourselves to where we want to be. We have a brain, we have a heart, we have courage. Now we just have to get out there and use them. It's an honor to spend this time with you. We'll be back in 3 or 4 weeks with another visit. Until then, know that you're in my thoughts and in my prayers. Know that I encourage you and I look forward to hearing the stories from you of your journey from wherever you are to wherever you want to be. God bless you all. Have a great day wherever you may be.